With the amount of debt the U.S. is carrying, and I think about the amount of stimulus that's going into the system, I think about inflation in the long term, or is there a possibility of a hyperinflationary environment in the future? How do you think about the setup for that and the framing of our current environment relative to what you think could happen in the future?
It's a great question because I think the last four recessions I've experienced, right, since the early 90s, all had to do with the Fed using Keynesian economics, basically reflating us out of trouble and printing more and more money. This time we're printing, like in the last month, we printed more money than the Fed did in over 100 years. So all of that is going to come due, right? We're going to have to pay that bill. And the problem we have is that we have this tremendous amount of debt, about $247 trillion, which is the global debt that is outstanding. That as our economic activity decreases worldwide, partially because of the coronavirus, but also because just we were running at full steam, and we're going to have to refinance all of that. We're going to have to readjust how much debt we can carry, right? And on the economic activity. So from a Fed standpoint, I mean, I think we're copying Japan, where everybody says it doesn't matter, but we are the reserve currency of the world. They're not. And the problem we're having is that the minute people lose trust in the reserve currency, our entire economic activity that is based on floating the dollar, all over the world, 90% of international commerce is denominated in dollars and so on, all of that will be taken away from us. So I think the risk we are taking as an economy, as an empire, is that we are effectively diluting the dollar, debasing the dollar, hoping to get ourselves out of trouble, without taking the medicine, without having to recap the economy, to re-engineer our businesses, because a lot of the businesses we are now saving are businesses that may not should be saved. And we should be maybe reinvesting these assets into artificial intelligence and machine learning and blockchain and things like that. And I think that this allocation of assets is just the wrong way. We're not helping ourselves. We're just kicking the entire planet down the road. And as it relates to Bitcoin, Bitcoin should be this deflationary, non-correlated asset. So Bitcoin, in this scenario, if the growth of the usage of Bitcoin, the growth of the Bitcoin community is growing faster than the creation of new Bitcoin, then it behaves as a deflationary store of value. And because there are very few of those, right? Gold, Bitcoin, you will see more and more people who lose trust in the dollar migrate into these non-correlated assets, which will take Bitcoin to new heights. That is the theory that I think many of the crypto guys are betting on. Again, it's not a good thing, it's a bad thing, but you have to basically make your choices and invest in the assets that will preserve the value of the money that you created.
Yeah, how do you think about Bitcoin as its own asset class and decoupling from the rest of the risk assets?
Yeah, it's a great question, because the answer is not, I wish the answer was clear and it was binary, but I think we've seen several waves of adoption, and each wave of adoption brings its own set of people. I think the first group that was kind of like the anarchists that came in, and then you had the libertarians, then you had the speculators kind of come in. These three waves brought their own kind of use case, and the last wave, which is the speculators, have caused us to be correlated to the markets, because it's the same people that are trading in stocks or in bonds or in commodities that are also trading in crypto. So you see their volumes and their trading patterns kind of represent themselves in the price movement, because the hodlers, like Celsius Network, most of our users are hodlers. They don't trade, right? So they're not the guys who are moving the market. So I think there is a big group of people that view Bitcoin as this doomsday insurance policy, but there's also a big group that kind of using it as a momentum trade or or basically correlated trade versus non-correlated trade. And because of that, you don't have that clear segmentation of Bitcoin behaving the way it's supposed to, which is it should be correlated to gold, not correlated to the stock market.